how's everything going this week for you?
Well, great. I was very interested in listening to comments you had about your cohort Jim, who's been sick and comes to school only on days when the show. I may have to look a little further into that.
Uh-oh, Jim. Sorry about that. Well, we'll be looking for a new band director, it looks like, so please submit your applications in person, and we'll see what we can do. So, how long have you been superintendent of Washington High School?
Well, I started in July 1st of 1969. I took over for a very good friend of mine, Ray Abernathy, and I've been superintendent ever since. So we're going to make it on 17 years, something like that.
Okay, and what was your occupation before that then?
Prior to becoming superintendent, I've been here in Washington since 1964. I came here as a teacher and an administrative assistant. I taught general business and bookkeeping, and served as a part-time administrator. And then in 1965, I was named assistant superintendent, served in that capacity for 4 years, and then took over as superintendent in 1969, and been here ever since.
What exactly does a superintendent do?
Well, my basic job description is to provide leadership for the entire educational program, the entire operation of Washington Community High School. That's kind of a broad, general description of my job. I have really 14 itemized job descriptions that encompasses everything from being the Chief Executive Officer of the Board of Education to finance, curriculum, personnel. In other words, the old cliche that goes, when you pass the buck, there's a place that it stops, and that's usually my desk. So in that respect, yeah, that is my responsibility, to operate the district for the Board of Education.
Okay, what kind of schooling was necessary for being a superintendent?
Well, first of all, of course, a bachelor's degree and some from some university. Mine happened to be from Illinois State University, and my major study was health and physical education. My minor was business education. After that, then the next step would be a master's degree as a minimum, and mine was from the University of Illinois in educational administration in 1962. And then I have probably 2 years to 2.5 years of study beyond that at Illinois State that started out to be on a doctorate program, but got sidetracked along the way, and it's now just a mass of hours.
Okay, go ahead.
In addition to the education for the superintendency, you need certification from the state of Illinois. When I got my certification, they had a thing called an all-grade supervisory that the State Board of Education issues that gives you the privilege of being an administrator in the elementary and secondary schools in the state. That has now changed. They have all sorts of endorsements, from administrative endorsements to superintendent's endorsements, that are added to certification, and the qualifications have changed somewhat. I really have not kept up on that too much since maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But basically it's master's degree plus with the proper certification will qualify you, at least paper-wise, for the superintendency.
Okay, now you always hear about newspapers bad-talking education. Not just newspapers, but, you know, on the news they're always talking about things schools aren't providing, and politicians sometimes, you know, drag out on schools a little bit. How do you feel about the quality of education?
I think those critics of education will always be around. Education is a public institution, so as such, everybody's ready to take a shot at you. But I think the quality of education that's afforded the Illinois students today is far superior to what it was in the 50s and even in the 60s. I think the opportunities for students today are just so much greater. You know, we hear arguments from a lot of the critics about students who are not prepared. They're not being properly prepared in the schools to go on to college. The colleges are saying students need more English, need more math, need more science. secondary school, high schools are saying elementary people need to be better prepared for reading, spelling, arithmetic when they come into high school. I think that's an ongoing thing. But I'm not one who believes that the quality of education is deteriorated. I think like every other profession, we have some excellent programs. We have some that are good. We have some that need improvement. And I think we all fall into that category in our own school, where we have extremely excellent programs in some areas. We have programs that are very good. We have some that need improvement. It's just the nature of the beast, and I think that I'm not one that believes that the quality has slipped that much.
Okay, how would you compare our schools with like Chicago schools and schools around there?
Well, unfortunately, I can't talk much about Chicago schools because I don't know much about them. They are a very large urban district. Their problems are incomprehensible to me, who sits out here in a 1,200 high school in so almost a suburban setting. Their problems are a lot different. I could probably speak more to maybe our neighbors within Tazewell County, or some of the suburban schools, or some other statewide schools. In response to your question, how do we compare? From all that I can find, I think we compare very well. In the quality of education that we provide, and I guess probably one of the things that I am most pleased with in our system is the opportunity that youngsters have for getting an education. We can provide, the schools, I'm saying, not we, not I, the schools, can provide all kinds of programs. But unless people like Jim and John and the rest of you take advantage of it, it really doesn't do a whole lot of good. Now, I think WCHS provides a lot of opportunity for youngsters. Curricular-wise, we have programs in the honors track that certainly is demanding and challenging. We have programs in the academic tracks that for those people are demanding and challenging. We have general levels track for those people who have some academic difficulty, where their needs are attempted to be met at their level of achievement. And we hope they will go on from there, that's not a stopping point. Special education and all the rest of the things that are provided in the curricular areas. I think those opportunities are great for our kids. And I think comparing us to other suburban schools, we're equal to and better in most areas.
Okay, how do you feel extracurricular activities, what kind of role does that play in the school?
Well, I'm a big advocate of extracurricular activities in the school. To me, that part of school that's the other half of education. Half of what you get as a student comes from the classroom. Listening to the teacher, doing the experiments, doing your homework, gaining in academic knowledge. That takes place in the classroom. The other half, the extracurricular part, that's the things that's fun about education. It's kind of hard maybe for some of us to comprehend that going out and practicing 2 and 3 hours every day for the football team and getting your brains banged around is fun. But those of us that participated in those kinds of things, we enjoy it and we like it, and we do it because we enjoy it, and that's the fun part of going to school. The people who participate in band, the same way. It's hard to comprehend. You go to band camp for 5 days or whatever it is, and you do a lot of marching, a lot of drilling, it's hot, but you have a lot of fun too, and that's also a part of school. This kind of activity that you have here is extracurricular. You do it because you enjoy it, because you're good at it, because you like it. It adds interest. It adds excitement to school. To me, school would be one heck of a boring place if all you had to do was come to school, go to class, and go home. To me, that'd be awful boring.
Do you feel this makes a significant difference then in a person's attitude then?
Oh, I think so. I haven't run any formal studies or I'm not familiar with any right offhand, but it's been proven many times that those kids who are most active in school in some form of extracurricular activity, and it doesn't make any difference what it is, be it drama, speech, etc. If they're active and have an interest, school is more fun, it's more enjoyable, they enjoy coming. And when you do that, you're going to a place you like, you're going to do better than everything else you do. So the active student is a plus, and he gains, the school gains, the community gains by him being active. So I think it's extremely important.
Okay, there's a lot of talk going on now about unit districts. Why don't you explain that for us a little bit?
Okay, first of all, we have to define, I guess, the kind of system that we have in Illinois in the school systems. There are basically three kinds of districts: elementary districts, secondary districts, or high school if you wish, and units. Units are organized on a kindergarten through senior year basis. That's a unit district, K through 12 as we call them. Duals are the other kind. Elementaries, which are K through 8. For example, all of you graduated from some elementary system that was a K to 8 if you went to school in this area. Central or Washington or Grade or District 50 or Pleasant View, St. Patrick's, which of course is private. But the public systems are all K to 8 elementary systems. When you came into the high school, you left that district and you came into a secondary district, entirely separate, run by a different Board of Education, different superintendent, different philosophy, but it's still within the same community. So we have to understand that difference, first of all, about organization. The unit system, the K through 12 unit system, is one that is a type of district that is strongly advocated at the state level, State Board of Education, and being even more so pushed now. Some of the reasons for that, and you got to understand that education is run basically by the legislature. They set the rules. They are the supreme school board, really, because we all live by their rules. The state legislature believes that the K through 12 system is a better system economically, first of all. And I will dispute that, but that's their belief. They contend that a K to 12 unit can be run more efficiently than dual districts. They contend that the organization of curriculum in a K through 12 system is better. There's a better articulation between levels of instruction from kindergarten all the way through senior level. I'll dispute that also. Those basically are two of the points. The other thing, the legislature simply feels there's too many school districts in the state of Illinois. They want less. And Gene Hoffman, who is a leader in this respect on the School Problems Commission and in the state legislature, makes that statement with no bones about it. And Gene is a very good friend of mine. He and I were together in college as college buddies, and he was president of Letterman's Club when I was a vice president. So we worked closely together. But he will tell you that, point blank, that he feels that there are too many school districts in Illinois. There should be a lesser number. And that's one of the pushes they have for unitizing and putting together districts to form units, K through 12 units. In our area, that would probably mean that all the elementary schools and the high school would become a unit district. It would be run by one superintendent, one Board of Education. New tax rates and the whole business part of it would be restructured. My position on that is simply this, that in our particular community, in 1971, we voted on a unit district, which is the way the legislature is set up now. The local people still have a voice in deciding how this kind of system the schools are going to have. So we voted and was defeated. The proposal was to form a unit district of Washington Township, basically. That was defeated by a 12-to-1 ratio. That was a mandate to us, at least in education, that the voters of Washington and Washington Township were happy with the way their educational system was structured and didn't want it to change. So the new push, you know, coming down right now with the new Senate Bill 730, that's pushing reorganization. It's hard to say what's going to happen in the next few years.
Okay, I hear that, okay, you have a voice whether you want to be a unit district or not, but now, are they going to start cutting down your funds now if you decide, you know, if you opt not to be a unit district? Do you think they'll have any effect on that?
The way the legislature, or the law is written right now, it provides that the local people will vote on the issue of becoming a reorganized district twice. Once, and I think the dates are April 1987 excuse me, and November 1987. So the local voting constituent will have two opportunities. Assuming that that's voted down, the way that education is funded currently in the state of Illinois by the resource equalizer formula, it provides, well, in our district that provides about $1,600,000 every year into our system, which is no peanuts. That's a lot of money. It's about half of our money, actually. But the law says that in 1988, that formula is going to be restructured. They call it sunsetting of the formula. Now, everybody in education believes that whatever comes out of that new funding formula is going to be geared very heavily toward the unit-type organization. There's two factors I think that they're going to consider when they write the formula. One is the type of district, unit, K-12, and the other is size. Again, the legislature is saying right now they don't want any high schools in the state of Illinois smaller than 500 students. That doesn't affect us. You know, we got 1,288 kids. We're a good-sized school. But it's going to affect a lot of small ones. Among our neighbors, Deer Creek, Mackinac, for one, 200 and some students. Eureka is not 500. And a lot of the small ones you can think about, Tremont, Delavan, those are going to be affected. So we believe, yes, we believe that in 1988, the issue is going to be forced to some reorganization of school districts because of money. And we all know you can't operate business without money. You know, whether you're running a private business, if you don't make a profit, you're not going to last long. In our business, if we don't get proper funding, we're going to have some problems.
Okay, how do you think this is going to affect the quality of education now? If you're cramming all these people into one school, is that going to take away from the extracurricular activities that are offered now? And how's that going to affect, the general area?
Now, if you're referring to our own school, I don't see much of an effect. We might be forced to become a unit with elementaries and high school. But the high school is going to be here. It's still going to be 1,200 and some kids. We're still going to have the same kind of programs. And very little effect from our standpoint.
Okay, but how about like on the high schools where, you've got under 500 students, and the grade schools?
Okay, I think the high schools are going to see some drastic changes. Now, it's not all bad. Please don't let me give you that impression. I attended a high school, for example, where I graduated. My graduating class, the entire class, was 18 kids. Now, I went to college, and I got into classes with students who graduated from schools like ours, 1,200 and so forth, who had calculus, they had advanced algebra, they had trigonometry, so forth. Well, here comes a poor little old country boy walking in with high school 18 who had algebra, geometry, and then a combined course called advanced algebra that included algebra 2, trigonometry, and whatever else the teacher thought he could teach in there. That was it. Now, I had to compete with those kids who came from these big schools with all that math on, my first math class. I walked into that class, and he started talking. By the first week, I was lost. He had covered everything I knew in a week's time. Where the kids from the New Triers and so forth, they were breezing right along because they had that opportunity. And I think that that is the thing that consolidation will provide for the very small schools. It'll provide educational opportunities for youngsters they didn't have before in the curricular areas. Again, my own experience in science, for example. You guys, most of you are taking advanced biology, advanced chemistry, physics honors, all those kinds of things. I didn't have that opportunity. Whatever was there, I had. General science, biology, and advanced science, which chemistry, physics, everything's included in one class. So again, when you went to a college, graduates from our school really struggled. They were behind.
So basically, then you feel that consolidating some of the smaller units together is going to help out, or at least that'll be one of the pluses of it then.
I think that will be a big plus for those youngsters who come from extremely small high schools, yes.
Okay. You catch a lot of flack on the smoking area and stuff like that. Why can you keep it open?
Yeah, you're right. We do catch a lot of flack on the smoking area. Well, the reason that we attempt to keep it open is the very reason that we established it in the first place. You know, it goes back to 1974 here. We did it at that point for several reasons. I'll try to remember most of them, but one of them dealt with the fact, at that time, the neighbors that lived on Bondurant, Jefferson, Tizzy Lane, all the schools, all the roads surrounding the high school, were complaining bitterly about students congregating in front of their houses, on their sidewalks, in their yards, smoking. Simply congregating, but that's what they were there for. They went off campus to smoke. A tremendous public relations problem for us with the neighbors of the school. Secondly, at that time, we were getting a lot of complaints and having a lot of problems from the students within the school who wanted to go into a restroom, and because a group was in there smoking with a guard on the door, you couldn't go. You know, and they say, hey, you don't go in this restroom. That kind of activity. And we didn't have the police force enough, I guess, didn't feel we needed the police force enough to police all those places so the restrooms could be used for the purpose that they were there for you people to use. They were being used for other reasons. The third reason that students were smoking under stairwells, you know, back in little nooks, crannies, corners. Somebody's coming, bingo, they flip away a lighted cigarette, and there's a hole in the floor. If it happened to be in here, it could be a fire. And if it was under the stairwells on the way to the boiler room with the combustible materials down there, the fire danger was immense. The other factor, I guess, was an element that I don't know if we've ever fully controlled, and that's the element from outside the school with contacting students on the school premises during the advent, I guess, of the drug problem and that kind of stuff. When a student went off campus, we had very little control over them. They were having a lot of contacts with unsavory type characters that we felt didn't need to be around, hanging around the school. So for that reason, we came up with the idea of a smoking area outside that would alleviate the public relations problem with the neighbors across the street and in the neighborhood. It would alleviate the restroom problem. Those kids who want to smoke had a place to go. They didn't have to go in the restrooms and torment and hide and torment people who wanted to use the restroom for the purpose it was intended. We got out of the fire problem for the most part. We still have a little bit. Somebody sneaks in every now and then, but nowhere near the problem it was before. We think it solved those problems. It hadn't solved the problem of youngsters smoking. If in your classes, when you, in health class and biology and the other areas, when you see that blow up of that lung of a person who's been smoking, you see all that black and goop in there, if that doesn't scare them, there's nothing that I can tell them is going to scare them to stop kids from smoking. So we think we have isolated our problem to where we can control it by having an area on the campus. We also know that anybody who comes on a campus who is not a student, we have them arrested. There's no questions asked about it. They don't belong here. That's another way we have of controlling those people.
Okay, do you think that, okay, you got, now this is a couple people's philosophy, you know, you got your, I'm going to say this nicely, you got your Bernies, excuse me, going to get hit for this one, I think, and then you got people that call themselves jocks, and then you've got, you know, regular people. Do you think, you know, given the burnouts a place to go, given the, you know, jocks a place to go, just to keep them away, do you think that's had any effect on, like, fighting and stuff like that?
No, first
people don't see eye to eye on.
No, first of all, I don't agree with the labels.
Well, no.
Yet I know that it's a fact of life. In any social structure, you know, I'm surprised you didn't throw in a couple others like the preppies and a few of the other groups.
Well, I was trying to be general. I didn't those weren't exactly, I guess, the
But
best
I
labels,
don't
lack
agree
of
with
better
that.
labels.
I think that society in general, people tend to get with groups that they feel comfortable with. And if you smoke, you're comfortable with others who smoke.
Mm-hmm.
I don't smoke, I'm not comfortable with people who smoke. So naturally I'm not going to join that group. And I think that's the kind of attraction. Whether you get into the people who congregate in the smoking area versus those who do not, whether that creates fights, I don't know, I can't say. Maybe it does. Maybe it's an identity that you have, a certain group, and if someone offends that particular group, it creates a battle. But I don't put a whole lot of stock in that, because kids have been fighting for years, and they're going to continue whether they smoke, don't smoke, whether they're jocks or no jocks, or whether they're preppies or no preppies. And it's just a matter of the volatile individual, I guess, that gets involved. So I don't think it's creating
to classify people like that. I know I'm going to walk by the down the hallways, and people are going to start throwing rocks and other miscellaneous items at me. So
well, I'll tell you though, Mike. Last year at the North Central meeting in Chicago, I heard a very learned presentation on the very topic that you're talking about right there, from a person who was doing their doctorate study on the social structure of a high school, and using the same terms. And this happened to be out in Colorado. They used a term that we hadn't heard in the Midwest before. They have a group out there they call the Cowboys. It's another social group, different from, yeah, they named some of the ones that we're familiar with. You know, they named the classified burnout, which I really don't know what that is. I really don't like that term, because nobody's a burnout. Everybody's worth something. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's a terrible classification. But they use the term. They use the term the preppies. They use the term of, that's one you just used here, the regulars, so-called regulars. The goody-goodies, there's another term they had, the jocks. And they had the other one called the Cowboys, which we had never heard before. But out west, it's a whole social structure in itself in the high school system. So
those are people who ride their horses to school, right?
No, but I'll tell you what, how they classified them. They said those are the people in the west who have the pickup trucks with the gun racks in the back, and most of them have guns in them.
So the people you don't want to mess with, then, basically. Okay. Well, recently you got a very interesting award. Let's see if we can get this here. Bet you know we got this.
No, you stole it off my wall, didn't you?
Well, there goes the show. I didn't steal it. So, why don't you, okay, this is those who excel in Washington, or Washington, not Washington. Why don't you go ahead and explain that to us a little bit? What was the criteria involved?
Okay, first of all, the Those Who Excel award it's not a Washington award, it's a statewide award. It's put on by the State Board of Education, sponsored by them. They have the region of the state divided up into 6 regions. And through a nomination process, people can get nominated for that particular award within their region. They select, at least on administrators, I'm not sure about some of the rest, but on administrators they give out 6 of those awards based upon nominations and qualifications for achievement in your particular job, and in my case as a school administrator, for excellent programs or whatever other criteria they use. But it's all based upon achievement and excellence in leadership, administrative leadership. The banquet was held this year in Chicago at the Americana Congress Hotel last Friday. A very impressive ceremony. People from all over the state, I would guess maybe 1,000 in the banquet room. 6 people received that award, and a similar award to what I have in the state of Illinois, 1 from each region. So, to me, it's a very gratifying award to receive. Somebody recognizes that what you do is not all bad, and they give you a little bit of credit for it. And it always makes you feel good.
Well, you must not be doing too bad, because I understand this isn't the only award you won. You got the Washingtonian Award. Why don't we flip to the other camera there? There's a little article about you in the paper. Yeah, we apologize for it to be green, blue, and other colors, but seems to be a slight problem with the camera. That tells about the award we just talked about, the Those Who Excel Award. Now, you got another award called the Washingtonian.
Yeah, that is a Washington Award. And the Washingtonian Award is given by the Chamber of Commerce to what they each given annually, actually, to someone in the community for community service, contribution to betterment of the city of Washington and in the Washington area. I was fortunate to receive that, I think, in 1980, when I was selected for that award, primarily for my activities with civic groups, Chamber of Commerce, and that kind of thing, contributing to the community.
Off the subject a little bit here, but have you ever considered letting a student do the announcements in the morning?
Yeah. Sure I have, many times.
That'd be a good time to ask you. I kind of put you on the spot a little bit.
Many times, but I'm going to explain it very, very selfishly, because this is why we do it the way we do here. A lot of schools do have students give announcements, and it's fine. I have no qualms about that at all. But for my mode of operation, to me, I look at that as being my means of communicating with the students.
Good PR then?
Well, sometimes it's PR. Sometimes if there's something that needs to be said a little stronger, I have that opportunity to say it also. But in a school our size, with the 1,280 students, I see very few of the students on a daily basis. Well, I get out in the halls, and talk and so forth. But I'd venture to say that among the freshmen, probably, most of them walking down the hall wouldn't know who I am at all. And probably a good portion of sophomores and maybe even some seniors, I don't know. But at least they hear a voice that comes over that microphone almost every day that they begin to associate with somebody who's supposed to know something about this building. And, selfishly, I see it as a good means for me to communicate with students, at least to have them understand that when they talk about the superintendent, we may not know the guy, but at least they know he's got a voice. We hear him once in a while.
He does talk English.
So that's really why we do it that way. And this isn't to say that a student couldn't do it as better, or probably a lot better than I do. But it does give me an avenue of communication and keeps that avenue open with the student body. That without that, I wouldn't have it all. Because we talked earlier about my job. One of the things about my particular position, that it does not give you the opportunity, although you deal with kids every day, it doesn't give you the opportunity to associate closely with students. And if there's any one thing I miss about school administration and superintendency, it's been that close relationship with kids. Because all through my career as a teacher, I was involved with many extracurricular activities, from sponsoring lettermen's clubs, student council, business clubs, coaching. Throughout my career, I've coached most all sports sometime or other. I've always had a close relationship with at least certain groups of students. Once you got to the superintendency, I guess maybe that's promoted to the superintendency. You lose some of that because your work now deals with staff, their problems, Board of Education, the legislature,
Brings away from the
finance.
kids kind of
Right.
around school.
Takes you out of the mainstream of what's happening. This is why this week with state playoffs and so forth, it's an exciting time for me. I thoroughly enjoy it. First of all, I enjoy athletics, but the other thing, it brings an excitement to the school that you can be a part of and get involved with the kids, and I think that's very important for my job.
Think we'll be pretty good in the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I am extremely happy and pleased. I was very scared with 2 minutes to go in the game last Saturday, but the kids just did a super job, won that one. And we play probably one of the premier football programs in the state of Illinois this Saturday in Geneseo. They've been in the playoffs 11 of 12 years. They have an outstanding program. They took 3,000 tickets, and they told me they will sell them. So we better have a good crowd.
Just
We're
out
going to
of
be
curiosity, how many people does our stadium hold?
actual seating.
Yeah.
We can actually seat, according to design, about 36 to 3,800.
Whoa.
So-
You guys better show up awful early. Okay?
Yeah, I think the Washington, the Panther crowd better get there early. Otherwise, we're going to be out cheered on our home field, and that's not going to be much fun. But yeah, I think we'll do well. I think we have a truly outstanding football team. I think the guys have just done a super job all year, and there's no reason to believe they won't do it now.
Okay, thanks a lot for coming on, Mr. Torry.
Well,
Been
thank you, Mike.
Very interesting. And believe it or not, I learned. What did you get at school? Thanks a lot.
We'll be looking for you.
Yeah. Jim, you're in trouble.